Savannah, why do you think sushi is traditionally eaten in one bite?
Interesting. I presume it's because each piece of sushi is a harmony of flavors intended to be enjoyed in a single bite.
Yes, exactly. Each sushi piece is handcrafted, carefully layered, and balanced. The fresh fish, the perfectly seasoned rice, even the subtle hint of wasabi, all are meant to dance a perfect waltz on the palate. And this intricate taste-alog vanishes if dissected into multiple bites, doesn't it?
So it's less about a rule and more about honoring the chef's artistry. Fascinating. I've always admired how sushi wraps such intense flavors in such a compact piece.
Precisely, Savannah. It's a proud symbol of Japanese culinary pride. And with that delightful bite, we are not only savoring a delicious piece of food, but we are also participating in a tradition that reflects the soul of Japan. So, tell me, are you prepared to unfold the art of sushi making with our listeners? So let's really dive deep into the birth of sushi in Japan. It all started around the 2nd century, but back then, the sushi we know and love today was a far cry from being the culinary darling it is now. Savannah, it might surprise you, but sushi was once mainly a means of food preservation. Sushi originally referred to fermented fish preserved in sake, rice wine. The rice was used to ferment the fish and then discarded, leaving behind the preserved fish to be consumed all year round.
Really? Sushi without rice? Now that's a curveball.
Indeed, but over centuries, as rice cultivation flourished in Japan, narazushi took form around the 8th century. Unlike its predecessor, this was made with rice and fish, no fermentation, no discarding. Now close your eyes and imagine, how would it feel to taste a bite of narazushi, the ancestor of modern sushi?
I can imagine it's a burst of flavors with the hint of tartness, but I'm sure it's still removed from the sushi we enjoy today.
That's true. In the Edo period, around the 18th century, sushi underwent a major transformation. With the advent of refrigeration techniques, it was revolutionized into edomae-zushi, a simpler variant compared to what we see today. This was an era where sushi truly began to reflect Edo's modern-day Tokyo bustling urban culture.
So Edo had its version of fast food even back then?
Aptly put, Savannah. Sushi was sold in food stalls as a snack, a far cry from the fancy dish on our tables today. There's so much history embedded with every piece of sushi that we savor.
That's utterly fascinating, Abigail. The complex journey of sushi, from its modest origins, evolving and adapting to the environment and culture, to curating an iconic culinary benchmark. Enthralling, isn't it?
Sushi has beautifully adapted to each era's cultural and environmental shifts, didn't it?
Adaptation, exactly. For instance, the evolution from salted fish sushi to fresh fish. How did that come about?
Well, Savannah, it all happened during the Edo era. Advances in refrigeration techniques led to the possibility of preserving fish in ice, allowing for consumption of fresh fish. This was a radical shift, as sushi was no longer a preserved food but became a more readily consumable food. The turn from preserving fish with salt to enjoying the umami taste of fresh fish really marked a new chapter in sushi's journey.
That's a poignant shift. Refrigeration isn't something we often consider when we think about sushi. It almost feels like a silent technological revolution that helped redefine this culinary tradition.
Yes, Savannah. The refrigeration revolution did more than just shift the ingredients. It allowed sushi to take on a new role in society. With fresh fish readily available, sushi was no longer a food reserved for special occasions or elite classes. It was now a food accessible to anyone on the streets of Edo. The common man's snack, if you will.
Access for all. That truly speaks volumes about sushi's incredible journey. It truly is like an intricate dance between culture, environment, and technology.
Savannah, ever wonder why sushi comes in so many varieties?
You know, I have thought about it. They all look so differently, but they all have that sushi essence. Excuse the naivete, Abigail, but what's the difference, really?
A great question. Sushi can be differentiated based on the crafting technique and the ingredients used. Starting with the most basic, nigiri is a form of sushi that's typically a slice of raw fish over pressed rice.
Is that one popular in Japan?
Absolutely, and it's appreciated for its simplicity. You really get to taste the fish in nigiri. Moving on, Maki, often known as sushi rolls, are perhaps what most people think of when sushi is mentioned. They are rolled using a bamboo mat with seaweed, rice, and fillings, which could be fish or vegetables.
Ah, I see. So, those are the ones that often come with colorful fillings and are cut into neat pieces, right?
Correct. The colorful presentation of maki adds to its appeal. Now, let's talk about gunkan maki, which means battleship sushi. This style typically includes a nori seaweed strip wrapped around rice to create a cup that is filled with fish roe or sea urchin.
Wow, I didn't know sushi had such aesthetic variations. Battleship sushi sounds intriguing, though I wonder how it tastes. Any more types we should be aware of?
There are many more, but let's mention temaki. This translates as hand-rolled sushi, and they're cone-shaped, filled with a mixture of sushi rice, seafood, and vegetables. Each type of sushi has its own flavors and textures, contributing to its unique charm. We've discussed sushi types like nigiri, maki, gunkan maki, and temaki. But interestingly, these types can vary based on the regions in Japan. For instance, in Osaka, there's oshizushi or pressed sushi.
Pressed sushi? What is that like?
Oshizushi is, as the name suggests, sushi that is pressed into a box-shaped mold, layered with toppings and then cut into squares. It's highly enjoyable, but maybe not as famous as its Tokyo counterparts.
That's really interesting. I guess sushi is as varied and diverse as Japan itself. But what about the different adaptations of sushi around the world?
Well, let's take California rolls, for instance. They are a twist given to sushi by substituting the traditional ingredients with avocado and crab sticks. Some regions even have their own signature sushi rolls, like the Philadelphia roll, which incorporates cream cheese.
Cream cheese? In sushi? Now that's interesting. It really is a testament to how sushi is adopted and adapted differently by various regions.
Yes. However, I must admit, I'm not as familiar with these modern sushi innovations. But I believe it's a reflection of how culinary traditions can evolve and yet remain rooted in their origins. Let's take a closer look at the art of sushi making, shall we?
Absolutely, Abigail. Guide us through it.
Sushi starts with selecting the right fish. Traditionally, sushi making involves using high-quality raw fish. This could range from fatty tuna to salmon to sea bass, even to eel. The quality of the fish is critical for sushi's unique flavor profile, and the fish must be impeccably fresh.
Sounds like sourcing the fish alone requires some special skills. What about the rice?
The rice. It's the heart of the sushi. It's a specific variety short-grain rice, specially cultivated for sushi. It's cooked meticulously, then seasoned while still hot, absorbing a mixture of rice vinegar, sugar, and sometimes sake.
That's interesting. So how do you use the prepared rice and fish to create sushi?
Well, there's a technique to it. Hand molding the rice requires a specific pressure so it stays together, but it's not too packed. It's a balance I struggled with when I first tried making sushi.
I can imagine. I've seen sushi chefs shape the rice with such precision, it's mesmerizing. Anything else?
After shaping the rice, you place a slice of fish atop the rice. Sushi masters use a technique of slicing fish that optimizes its texture and flavor. This skill, honed over years, is something you can't replicate in a home kitchen. Honestly, my respect for sushi chefs knows no bounds after my own struggles with sushi making. Rolling sushi savannah is where the real craft begins.
Tell me more, Abigail.
Once the rice and fish are prepped, you place a sheet of seaweed or nori on a bamboo mat, also called a makisu. The preparation of the nori is crucial. Too dry and it crumbles, too moist and it won't hold. The sweet spot is hard to achieve, believe me.
Seems sushi making is quite a balancing act.
Indeed, and that's just the beginning. After the nori, you carefully layer the sushi rice, make sure it's evenly spread out, leaving a margin at the top so that the roll will seal correctly. Then comes the neta, or topping, in most cases, sliced fish.
So sushi isn't just about rolling, it's layers, precision.
Exactly. Each step, each layer, each movement reflects a skill, a discipline, and above all, a love for the art. The final stage is the actual roll. With the mat guiding the shape, you tightly roll the sushi, applying just the right amount of pressure.
Sounds quite challenging.
It is. I remembered my first attempts. Rice everywhere, uneven rolls. But that was the fun of it. And you slowly start to appreciate the craft, the tradition. Each roll embodies years of culture, refinement, and dedication. It's not just food, it's a legacy.
A true testament to the sushi chefs, right?
Absolutely. Their dedication, commitment, and expertise can't be replicated. They create art on a plate. They're not just chefs. They're custodians of a tradition that they carry forward with each roll.
Abigail, given your Japanese roots, I'm guessing that you've had your fair share of visits to sushi restaurants in Tokyo?
You're right, Savannah. My family and I would often visit Shiroi Sushi, a quaint little sushi bar in Ginza. Every visit felt like an intimate culinary journey. The deep flavors, precision in presentation, and the ceremonious pacifying ambiance encapsulate sushi's vibrant tradition.
That sounds delightful, especially the ambiance bit. A contrast, I guess, from the fast-paced conveyor belt sushi bars?
It is. But there's a charm to sushi conveyor belts or kaiten-zushi too. You'd think it's all about convenience, but it feels like a live sushi showcase. Plates of colorful maki, nigiri, chirashi whirling in front of you. It's like watching a sushi parade.
Sushi parade sounds appetizing. From fancy restaurants to kaiten sushi, sushi has indeed become accessible to varying palates and pockets.
That's true, but my most memorable sushi experience was at Tsukiji Fish Market. Imagine savoring fresh sushi in the heart of the world's largest fish market. It's an experience like no other. It's the mecca of sushi.
I've heard about Tsukiji and its early morning sushi breakfast culture. I bet the sushi there is undoubtedly fresh.
Absolutely, Savannah. Watching the chefs expertly prepare your sushi, that too with a catch fresh from the market, is an unparalleled delight. It's a real delight to witness sushi in its most authentic setup. The Tsukiji Fish Market in Tokyo, Savannah, is truly the pinnacle of sushi experiences.
I can imagine. Having sushi straight from the largest fish market in the world, right where it is prepared, must be something else.
Absolutely. Nothing can match the sensation of slurping down a fresh-out-of-the-water sushi while the market bustles around you.
But with sushi going global, there must be some interesting adaptations in the restaurant scenes outside Japan. What is your take on that, Abigail?
It's intriguing indeed. Sushi has become a global phenomenon, adapted to local palates and preferences.
Right, like Korean-style sushi or gimbap that I often see here in Seoul.
Exactly. But no matter where it's made, there's a universal respect for sushi's tradition and artistry. It's amazing how this tiny dish unites food lovers worldwide, isn't it?
I couldn't agree more. The display of precision and skill that goes into sushi making is what sets it apart. No matter where you are in the world, there's no doubt as to why sushi is beloved globally.
Savannah, isn't it fascinating that there are specific rules when it comes to eating sushi?
Absolutely, Abigail. We've spoken about the artistry sushi carries in its preparation, but I think equal respect is required while consuming it too. What's the one-bite rule about, though?
Yes, the one-bite rule is an important part of sushi etiquette. It suggests that sushi should be consumed in one bite to experience the perfect harmony of flavors crafted by the sushi chef. Multi-biting, or taking small bites, might disturb the balance of taste and texture the chef has meticulously crafted.
Oh, I see. That's interesting. I imagine all the distinctive flavors, from the fish to the vinegared rice to the hit of wasabi, in one mouthful would be an explosion of flavor.
Indeed, Savannah. And just as important is knowing how to use the accompaniments like soy sauce, wasabi, and pickled ginger. Like, when dipping sushi into soy sauce, one should dip only the fish part, not the rice. Too much soy sauce can overpower the delicate flavors of the fish and the rice.
And if I'm not mistaken, wasabi and pickled ginger have their own roles too, right?
Yes, wasabi is usually already applied by the sushi chef in perfect proportion. More wasabi can, again, disrupt that balance. The pickled ginger, famously known as gari, is served as a palate cleanser. It's to be eaten between bites of sushi, not with the sushi itself, to enjoy the individual flavors of each piece.
Wow, Abigail, this is so insightful. Thank you for walking us through the traditional way of consuming sushi. I think such rituals make eating sushi a complete sensory experience.
I totally agree, Savannah. Savoring sushi is not just about taste, it's also a cultural journey. It's about respecting the art, the tradition, and appreciating the skills of sushi chefs. Despite sushi becoming a global phenomenon, maintaining these etiquettes helps keep the tradition alive. So, Savannah, have you ever thought about making your own sushi at home?
Actually, Abigail, that has crossed my mind, but I feel I might not get it right. Isn't sushi making a complicated process?
Not at all, Savannah. It might seem intimidating, but with a bit of practice, it can be quite a rewarding experience. Besides, making sushi at home allows you to customize it as per your preference. Let me guide you through a simple sushi recipe for beginners. Do you have a go-to type of sushi?
I'd like to try making maki rolls. They look simple enough.
Great choice, Savannah. Let's start with choosing the fish. Tuna or salmon are the most popular choices for maki rolls because of their flavor and texture. Now, a sushi-grade fish is advisable because consumption is raw. You can find these at Japanese grocery stores or high-quality fish markets.
And it's essential to be careful about the freshness and the way it's cleaned, right?
Absolutely, Savannah. After fish comes the sushi rice. Use short-grain Japanese rice because it sticks together better, allowing the sushi to hold its shape. Wash it thoroughly under cold water until the water runs clear and follow the 1:1 ratio of water to rice for cooking.
I've heard there's also a certain kind of vinegar used on sushi rice. Is that true?
Yes, that would be sushi vinegar. It's a mix of rice vinegar, sugar, and salt, all boiled together. Once your rice is cooked, spread it out in a large dish and sprinkle this vinegar mix uniformly. Remember, the rice needs to cool completely before using it to make sushi. Now that we're ready with the fish and rice, can you guess what comes next, Savannah?
Well, it's time to roll, isn't it?
Exactly, Savannah. Place a nori sheet on a bamboo mat and spread a thin layer of rice over it, leaving about an inch from the top edge of the nori free. Then, place your filling near the bottom end. Lift the edge of the bamboo mat and carefully roll it up, applying slight pressure to keep it tight. Once you've created a roll, cut it into bite-sized pieces with a sharp, wet knife.
That sounds like an art, Abby. I guess I just need to practice, right?
Indeed, Savannah. Just remember to be patient and not rush the process. Each step from choosing the right ingredients to properly rolling the sushi is an opportunity to fully immerse yourself in the sushi-making experience. It may not come out perfect the first time, but it will surely be worth it. Savannah, do you remember when we talked about the ritual of omakase?
Yes, that's chef's choice meal, right? But Abby, I didn't quite understand its cultural significance. Can you explain a bit?
Of course. Omakase has a very distinct cultural meaning in Japanese culinary tradition. It's when you place your trust entirely in the chef's hands. Instead of ordering from a set menu, you get what the chef decides is best for that day. It's the ultimate expression of trust in the expertise and creativity of the chef. An omakase experience is unique, every time. The array of dishes depends entirely on what's in season and what the chef thinks would be the best fit for your palate. It's not merely a meal, it's akin to a personal culinary adventure.
That indeed sounds like an adventure, Abby. And how was your experience?
It was truly one of a kind. The chef carefully chose each course, skillfully preparing and presenting it with utmost care. I savored every bite. It was like a symphony of flavors. The experience deeply resonates with Japan's central philosophy of ichigo ichie.
Ichigo ichie. That's one time, one meeting, right?
That's correct. This concept is rooted in tea ceremony customs. But in the realm of sushi, it emphasizes that each omakase meal, the chef, the customer, the chosen ingredients, is a communion that can never be replicated. It truly underscores that every experience is unique and fleeting. That's the essence of omakase. Savannah, you know sushi is more than just a food item. Indeed, it's an entire language. With numerous variants and accompaniments, sushi speak is a world within itself.
Language? Like a terminology for sushi?
Exactly. There are a variety of sushi-related terms. For starters, sushi itself literally means it's mixed with vinegared rice. Shoyu is what we call soy sauce in Japanese, and in the sushi bar, when you hear a phrase like ipponzuke, it refers to one of the oldest methods of making sushi with marinated whole fish. The terms convey a wealth of information about preparation methods, presentation, and even history of different dishes.
I've never thought about that. But beyond food, any other words we should know when dining at a sushi restaurant?
Good question, Savannah. Well, besides the name of sushi types and their ingredients, knowing itadakimasu and gochi-sosama deshita can elevate your sushi dining experience. Itadakimasu is an essential phrase said before starting a meal, and gochi-sosama deshita is expressed at the end of a meal to show gratitude to the food and the people who prepared it. It really embraces the whole culinary ritual in Japan.
Lovely. I think it's fascinating that these phrases articulate the entire culinary experience and culture revolving around sushi. I'll definitely remember these words next time when I have sushi.
That's the spirit, Savannah. Understanding the sushi language not only adds to the flavor, but also lets you navigate menus and express your dietary preferences. Plus, it's a fun way to connect with the Japanese culture on a deeper level through food. Savannah, I think we should discuss a rather serious matter that often remains in the shadow of these delicious sushi rolls: the impact of sushi making on oceanic ecosystems.
That's crucial, Abigail. Overfishing is a significant concern, especially with the rising global demand for sushi. Do you have any insights?
You're right. Certain species, like Atlantic bluefin tuna, have seen a severe decline due to their popularity in sushi. The repercussions can be catastrophic, upsetting the balance of marine biodiversity. It's important to remember that sustainable sushi is not just about sourcing fish responsibly. It's about ensuring the future of sushi.
Abigail, you have painted a sobering picture. As sushi enthusiasts, is there anything we can do?
Absolutely, Savannah. I believe the first step is acknowledging the problem. Careful choices can even turn our sushi consumption into a force for ocean preservation. For instance, considering underused fish species or seafood from well-managed sources. Diversity in our sushi choices can reduce pressure on overfished species.
I see. Changing consumption patterns can subsequently modify the demand-supply equilibrium and promote sustainable fishing. That sounds like a positive step we could take.
Exactly. Also, chefs play a major role in shaping consumers' preferences, as they can introduce new species into their menus. You remember Omakase, right? The chef decides what to serve based on what's in season and available locally. It seems like an excellent way to encourage sustainable consumption.
Indeed, initiatives like these could help redirect the sushi industry towards a sustainable trajectory. It will not be an overnight change, but small steps from each one of us can make a huge difference. Wrapping up our sushi adventure, what worries me, Abby, is the careful balance needed between preserving sushi traditions and meeting its global demand.
Great point, Savannah. The problem arises when, in an attempt to meet the soaring demand, the essence of sushi can sometimes be diluted with quick-fix commercial adaptations. It's a cultural heritage that commands an enormous amount of craftsmanship.
From what we've uncovered, sushi is no mere delicacy. It's a physical embodiment of Japanese culture in the form of food. It signifies much more than the ingredients it comprises of, doesn't it?
Yes, Savannah. It is a testament to Japanese cuisine, its intricacies, aesthetics, and the attention to detail inculcated in the tradition. It's distressing to think that the core of sushi might be altered with mass production.
Interestingly, modern variations of sushi continue to be created around the globe, all the while traditional sushi persists in holding its ground in Japan. Yet I wonder, Abby, how does this interplay impact regional sushi styles in Japan?
Well, Savannah, it's a complex scenario, isn't it? As global versions of sushi gain prominence, they at times shape the perception of what sushi is to the world, potentially influencing traditional and regional styles over time. The regional variations in Japan have centuries of history and technique behind them, not to mention the localized ingredients that are used.
So, the interweaving of global views of sushi and native practices is a delicate matter. Abby, in your mind, is it possible for sushi tradition to evolve, yet stay grounded to its roots?
That's a thoughtful inquiry, Savannah. Given the deep-rooted cultural significance sushi holds in Japan and the respect it commands, I believe that evolution need not involve sacrificing values or heritage. If anything, the essence of sushi inspires its adaptations, reminding us that at its core, sushi is more than just food. It's an art with profound simplicity and a notion of harmony.